Good evening. Let's start tonight with hymn number 42. Come, thou all transforming Spirit, bless the sower and the seed. Let each heart thy grace inherit, raise the weak, the hungry feed. From the gospel, now supply thy people's need. Hymn number 42. I'll read from the King James Version of the Holy Bible. Deuteronomy. Thou shalt not have in thine house diverse measures, a great and a small, but thou shalt have a perfect and just weight, a perfect and just measure shalt thou have. Matthew. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. 2 Corinthians. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? And what concord hath Christ with Belial? And what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God. God hath said, I will dwell in them, and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. 1 Samuel. The Philistines took the ark of God, and brought it from Ebenezer unto Ashdod. And when the Philistines took the ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon, and set it by Dagon. And when they of Ashdod arose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. And when they arose early on the morrow morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. But the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coasts thereof. And when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, The ark of the God of Israel shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us, and upon Dagon our God. Matthew. If thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out, and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off, and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. If thy hand or thy foot offend thee, cut them off, and cast them from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life halt or maimed, rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into everlasting fire. And if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life with 1 eye, rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into hell fire. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? No man can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down. For it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Jesus said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Again the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them, and saith unto him, All these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then saith Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan. For it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Luke. And it came to pass, when the time was come that he should be received up, he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem. And it came to pass that, as they went in the way, a certain man said unto him, Lord, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. And Jesus said unto him, Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. And he said unto another, Follow me. But he said, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. Jesus said unto him, Let the dead bury their dead, but go thou and preach the kingdom of God. And another also said, Lord, I will follow thee, but let me first go bid them farewell, which are at home at my house. And Jesus said unto him, No man, having put his hand to the plow and looking back, is fit for the kingdom of heaven. Galatians. If a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. But let every man prove his own work, and then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone, and not in another. I shall now read correlative passages from our denominational textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, by Mary Baker Eddy. To the physical senses, the strict demands of Christian Science seem peremptory, but mortals are hastening to learn that life is God, good, and that evil has in reality neither place nor power in the human or the divine economy. Fear of punishment never made man truly honest. Moral courage is requisite to meet the wrong and to proclaim the right. But how shall we reform the man who has more animal than moral courage, and who has not the true idea of good? Through human consciousness, convince the mortal of his mistake in seeking material means for gaining happiness. Reason is the most active human faculty. Let that inform the sentiments and awaken the man's dormant sense of moral obligation, and by degrees he will learn the nothingness of the pleasures of human sense and the grandeur of bliss of a spiritual sense, which silences the material or corporeal. More than profession is requisite for Christian demonstration. Few understand or adhere to Jesus' divine precepts for living and healing. Why? Because his precepts require the disciple to cut off the right hand and pluck out the right eye. That is, to set aside even the most cherished beliefs and practices, to leave all for Christ. Wisdom and love may require many sacrifices of self to save us from sin. One sacrifice, however great, is insufficient to pay the debt of sin. The atonement requires constant self-immolation on the sinner's part. Jesus experienced few of the pleasures of the physical senses, but his sufferings were the fruit of other people's sins, not his own. When will it be understood that matter has neither intelligence, life, nor sensation, and that the opposite belief is the prolific source of all suffering? God created all through mind and made all perfect and eternal. Where then is the necessity for recreation or procreation? To those buried in the belief of sin and self, living only for pleasure or the gratification of the senses, he said in substance, "Having eyes ye see not, and having ears ye hear not, lest ye should understand and be converted, and I might heal you." He taught that the material senses shut out truth and its healing power. Outside of Christian Science, all is vague and hypothetical, the opposite of truth. Yet this opposite, in its false view of God and man, impudently demands a blessing. Outside of this science, all is mutable, but immortal man, in accord with the divine principle of his being, God, neither sins, suffers, nor dies. Does not science show that sin brings suffering as much today as yesterday? They who sin must suffer. With what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. There is a large class of thinkers whose bigotry and conceit twist every fact to suit themselves. Their creed teaches belief in a mysterious, supernatural God and in a natural, all-powerful devil. Another class, still more unfortunate, are so depraved that they appear to be innocent. They utter a falsehood while looking you blandly in the face, and they never fail to stab their benefactor in the back. A third class of thinkers build with solid masonry. They are sincere, generous, noble, and they are therefore open to the approach and recognition of truth. To teach Christian Science to such as these is no task. They do not incline longingly to error, whine over the demands of truth, nor play the traitor for place and power. The Christian Scientist has enlisted to lessen evil, disease, and death, and he will overcome them by understanding their nothingness and the allness of God or good. Sickness to him is no less a temptation than is sin, and he heals them both by understanding God's power over them. Mortals must change their ideals in order to improve their models. A sick body is evolved from sick thoughts. Sickness, disease, and death proceed from fear. Sensualism evolves bad physical and moral conditions. Selfishness and sensualism are educated in mortal mind by the thoughts, ever recurring to oneself, by conversation about the body, and by the expectation of perpetual pleasure or pain from it. And this education is at the expense of spiritual growth. If we array thought in mortal vestures, it must lose its immortal nature. If we look to the body for pleasure, we find pain. For life, we find death. For truth, we find error. For spirit, we find its opposite, matter. Now reverse this action. Look away from the body into truth and love, the principle of all happiness, harmony, and immortality. Hold thought steadfastly to the enduring, the good, and the true, and you will bring these into your experience proportionably to their occupancy of your thoughts. The effect of mortal mind on health and happiness is seen in this. If one turns away from the body with such absorbed interest as to forget it, the body experiences no pain. Either here or hereafter, suffering or science must destroy all illusions regarding life and mind, and regenerate material sense and self. The Apostle says, "For if a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself." This thought of human material nothingness, which science inculcates, enrages the carnal mind and is the main cause of the carnal mind's antagonism. Grafting holiness upon unholiness, supposing that sin can be forgiven when it is not forsaken, is as foolish as straining out gnats and swallowing camels. The scientific unity which exists between God and man must be wrought out in life practice, and God's will must be universally done. If men would bring to bear upon the study of the science of mind half the faith they bestow upon the so-called pains and pleasures of material sense, they would not go on from bad to worse until disciplined by the prison and the scaffold. But the whole human family would be redeemed through the merits of Christ, through the perception and acceptance of truth. The so-called pleasures and pains of matter perish, and they must go out under the blaze of truth, spiritual sense, and the actuality of being. Mortal belief must lose all satisfaction in error, and sin in order to part with them. Whether mortals will learn this sooner or later, and how long they will suffer the pangs of destruction depends upon the tenacity of error. The knowledge obtained from the corporeal senses leads to sin and death. When the evidence of spirit and matter, truth and error, seems to commingle, it rests upon foundations which time is wearing away. Mortal mind judges by the testimony of the material senses, until science obliterates this false testimony. An improved belief is one step out of error, and aids in taking the next step and in understanding the situation in Christian Science. Mortal belief is a liar from the beginning, not deserving power. It says to mortals, "You are wretched," and they think they are so. And nothing can change this state. Until the belief changes. Mortal belief says, "You are happy," and mortals are so, and no circumstance can alter the situation until the belief on this subject changes. Human belief says to mortals, "You are sick," and this testimony manifests itself on the body as sickness. It is as necessary for a health illusion as for an illusion of sickness to be instructed out of itself into the understanding of what constitutes health. For a change in either a health belief or a belief in sickness affects the physical condition. Erroneous belief is destroyed by truth. Change the evidence, and that disappears which before seemed real to this false belief, and the human consciousness rises higher. Thus, the reality of being is attained and man found to be immortal. The only fact concerning any material concept is that it is neither scientific nor eternal, but subject to change and dissolution. Christian Science presents unfoldment, not accretion. It manifests no material growth from molecule to mind, but as an impartation of the divine mind to man and the universe. Proportionately, as human generation ceases, the unbroken links of eternal harmonious being will be spiritually discerned, and man, not of the earth, earthly, but coexistent with God, will appear. The scientific fact that man and the universe are evolved from spirit, and so are spiritual, is as fixed in divine science as is the proof that mortals gain the sense of health only as they lose the sense of sin and disease. God's children already created will be cognized only as man finds the truth of being. Thus it is that the real, ideal man appears in proportion as the false and material disappears. Let's pray together silently for a few moments, and then we'll pray together aloud the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Our next hymn tonight is number 141. I'll read the third verse. Fruitful shall our tillage be, known the work of perfect mind, leaves to be gathered from the tree for the healing of mankind. And number 141. This meeting is now open for the sharing of testimonies of healing and thoughts and remarks on Christian Science.
You guys have a wonderful evening. Stay warm. It's cold out there. I will see you Sunday.
We'll be here. final hymn tonight is number 217. O he whom Jesus loved has truly spoken, that holier worship which God designs to bless, restores the lost and heals the spirit, broken, and feeds the widow and the fatherless. Hymn number 217.